Monday morning at 7:40, we put this time aside every week for the editor of the National Review, but you can see his syndicated stuff here in the New York Post and often a guest on many of the Sunday morning talk shows, especially my guy Chuck Todd's Meet the Press. He's great. Rich Lowry, his new column is out, Bill Barr Didn't Lie. Now, last week, he actually hopped on with us circa 5 a.m. from Los Angeles. As if that wasn't nice enough, he's back today even after finding out that his 20 large on the 7-horse wasn't going to pay off. Here he is, our good buddy Rich Lowry. Good morning, Rich.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. And we know you're a big sports fan, Yankee fan first. University of Virginia, your alumni won the college championship this year, so we got to go to the Kentucky Derby with you. Ever see anything? Well, you haven't seen anything like that. Never happened before, but Bernie and I both think that was they stole it. I mean, there was a little bit of he impeded the other horses just a little to strip that horse of the Kentucky Derby win. We think is ridiculous. What are your thoughts?
It seemed like a let-it-play kind of moment. I actually missed it. The volume on our TV wasn't working. So, I watched the actual race and the closed captioning, and I saw one reference to the guy saying, oh, they're going to look at it, but he won by, such a margin that it's probably not going to be a big deal. And then, it wasn't until like 3 hours later I looked at my phone and was like, what? So, it's just like, a cheap foul at the end of a basketball game.
Right, same thing. Right. So, it reminded me of Trump. I mean, Trump tried to commit obstruction, but he didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And, like the horse is, leaping over a puddle or something. So,
right, exactly.
Seems like no harm, no foul, but 65-1, that's where my 20 large should have been.
It's an outrage, Rich Lowry. So, Rich, listen, Friday night I'm watching ABC News with David Muir. So they neglect to report on the 2-year-old who was drowned in the Rio Grande River, fell off a raft, trying to get in here illegally. The parents bringing him, of course. They ignored that. They ignored the great economic news that came out on Friday. Again, no surprise. And they also ignored the fact that the New York Times reported that Obama's FBI actually spied on the Trump campaign. And they spun it, of course, to protect the deep state people. And they called the spy a government investigator. Take your pick, Rich Lowry.
Well, usually the media is a sucker for a sexy spy story.
Right.
And here you have a Trump campaign official saying there's this blonde bombshell, with these amazing curves that she, wasn't hiding. And, you got to read about it in the New York Post because you won't see it anywhere else. They were obsessed with a year with this Russian spy who, worked with the NRA, the redheaded woman. So you'd think there'd be a similar interest here, and there just isn't. And I don't know if sending a covert informant to try to pump someone for information, if that's not spying, and the way it's commonly understood, what is?
Yeah, no, it was spying. And look, you write about this, how the Democrats are trying to discredit Bill Barr before he investigates the investigators. You talk about the Democrats just picking on stuff that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there was no collusion. There was no obstruction. Bill Barr didn't lie. That's what Robert Mueller came up with. Now, Trump has kind of gone back and forth on this. Initially, he said, yeah, Bob, go testify. Now he's saying, well, maybe he shouldn't testify. Why do you think Trump has gone back and forth on that?
Well, I'm sympathetic to his latest position, and I was saying this a couple of weeks ago. So you're a prosecutor. Usually the decision you make is to prosecute or not. And he didn't make that decision, Mueller. And usually if the decision is not, you just shut up. This is why Comey got in such trouble, during the campaign, because he wasn't going to prosecute Hillary, wasn't going to recommend prosecution, but then laid out everything she'd done wrong. And Mueller did that times 10, and he had 400 pages to speak. He presumably did it very carefully, right? They had 2 years to produce this report. So why do we need to hear from him again? And this is just the Democrats want Mueller to do all their work for them. So if they want to decide what's in the report is damning enough to impeach him, go ahead. It's their right. But they just want to have him back up, so he'll have him up, so he'll hopefully say some more damaging things about the president. And that's just not the role of a prosecutor. Jerry Nadler can do that, but
right.
Why should a prosecutor working for the Department of Justice do that?
And similarly with Bill Barr, they want, instead of asking the questions themselves, they want to put their lawyers out and ask Bill Barr the questions. But let me ask you this question, Rich Lowry, and you would know the answer. Cannot the Democrats right now go and read this Mueller report in its entirety by going over to the DOJ and what they call a SCIF? And none have. And if that's the case, why haven't they?
Yeah, my understanding is 3, as of last week, had gone into the SCIF to look at it, and it's unredacted except for legally the Justice Department cannot provide the grand jury material. But everything else, things that are damaging to just incidental third-party players, classified information, all that is in there, and they don't have a high interest in actually seeing it because everyone knows there's nothing redacted that's going to be a bombshell. So this is all for show. And the reason Barr didn't want to go to the House committee is just he felt, I don't think that House committee has ever had a counsel ask questions. And they want to create kind of a Watergate atmosphere around this, and he doesn't like those optics. I thought he was completely fine and, in fact, good in his Senate testimony. I think he can handle anyone, and is a real pro and knows the law and the facts forward and backwards. So he wouldn't have a problem factually answering questions from a counsel. He just doesn't like the optics.
The great editor of the National Review, our good buddy Rich Lowry, here every Monday at this time. So Iran is back in the news, and Bolton saying that they've threatened some of our interests. We've got warships on the way. We are ready, if we have to take some action. Also, Iran, of course, right in the middle of this Israeli-Palestine issue. They are seemingly supplying weapons for the Palestinians against the Israelis, which ain't going to work with this administration and our country. What do you think in the end is really going to happen between us and Iran?
Well, I think there is some potential for some shots being fired at sea. And one of my favorite headlines from early on in the Trump administration, maybe first 6 months or so, was a Wall Street Journal headline, and it said, Iranian Navy boats stop harassing U.S. ships. No one knows why. And clearly, we knew the reason why, and that was that they're actually scared to keep doing it. So we'll see how far they'll push it. I think that the sanctions have really hurt the regime. The problem is just these regimes. We've seen it in North Korea. You can isolate them literally almost from any contact with the world. And if they have a grip on power and they're truly determined, there's nothing you can do about it. But this is a government that is behind a lot of the nasty stuff happening in the Middle East and has the ambition of dominating the Middle East.
So specifically, Rich, and you might not know this answer because John Bolton has been very vague about it. He's talking about American interests. Is it the Straits of Hormuz, or is it directly related to this little current battle right now between Israel and Gaza?
I think it would be maintaining clear navigation in the Straits of Hormuz would be the strategic interest.
Uh-huh.
So are you going to provide Michael Cohen with a lift to prison today?
It's so funny. I had a Marine Corps friend of mine was in town on Saturday, and I had lunch with him in Midtown with his kid, and he was like, "You wouldn't believe there are all these paparazzi next door." When I was here a little earlier, 15 minutes ago, I'm like, "Who is it? Is it a Broadway star? Some TV star?" And it was Michael Cohen.
Oh,
he had a picture on his phone of Michael Cohen walking out of this restaurant in Midtown.
Oh, he's been living large the last couple of weeks.
He was having lunch the other day at Barney's.
Yes,
for God's sakes,
Okay.
with his kid.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you,
that's his neighborhood.
Rich Lowry, James Holzhauer on Jeopardy. I mean, you're as smart as that guy.
Yeah.
What do you think of that whole phenomenon right now?
Of Michael Cohen being famous?
No, James Holzhauer, the guy.
I haven't followed it.
Oh, you haven't? Really?
So he has an amazing run. I think I saw a caption somewhere.
Okay.
That's enough of that. Well, listen, just so you know, Rich, before you exit this morning, and you're great, and you're famous, and you've done a lot of great things in your career, and we're really honored to have you here on Mondays. But just so you know, you may not know
What is this leading up to?
This is huge. I know you're nervous, right? You're nervous. No. I don't know if you know this because I didn't see any of your tweets about this. But every Monday morning now, you are a guest on a show that has been given the award just Friday for the most outstanding morning show in New York City. Yes, in this city with a ton of big
credit. These 10 minutes on Monday that tip you over the top.
This by the New York State Broadcasters Association, by the way.
That's awesome.
Rich Lowry taking credit. Thank you. Yeah. Just so you know, this is a big deal. I know
that's often. I'll tweet it out this morning. I've been remiss.
We'll take it.
Yeah, do that, please. We love you, Rich. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. There he is, Rich Lowry. And make sure he tweets it out, Jill, okay? Anyway, we'll take a short break. When we get back, a lost weekend for the Mets. The Yankees got a big win yesterday. We've got NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, more on the Kentucky Derby. The Blitz is coming up.